Mistress, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. They refuse to subscribe to your Patreon. Most effective, Your Majesty. Will you destroy these consumers?
Later. I prefer to play with things a while, and they may change their minds.
Hello, lovelies. I need your help with something. Not money this time, though that would be lovely. And not for someone else this time, but for me. See, this was a problem I raised a while ago, and I took measures to prevent it being as big of a problem as quickly as it was going to be. You know, I introduced Off Topic Tuesday, and I introduced Pretentious Waffle as regular things on the channel where I could explore things at greater length and being self-consciously pretentious for Pretentious Waffle, and where I could talk about the politics and the world's slow and relentless slide into fascism, or anything else that I wanted to bring up on the Tuesdays. And for a while that has forestalled the problem that I have essentially run out of stuff to review or to look back on. I've covered a ton of classic games, I've covered a ton of new games. To be perfectly honest, the reviews of newer stuff, I try now to only pick up stuff that I know I'm going to use in some capacity, or that is important and interesting for archival purposes. And otherwise, I'm curtailing my spending massively, because it doesn't pay for itself, basically, doing the reviews. The things that have paid for themselves have been things like covering the He-Man Lore Bible, which continues to be in my top few videos every month, or the Kalergi Plan, which seems to attract an innumerable and unending number of far-right lunatics wanting to argue with me and failing. But I don't want to turn my channel entirely into that. Yeah, a good debunking is always fun. And I get the feeling that we may need some additional militant atheism in the future, so that might be maybe another option. But the basic problem is that if I don't have anything else I want to sound out about, then I've basically run out of things to review. Now, I have the Phantasy Star RPG on the way, and a couple of other books, another Japanese RPG and a 5e supplement related to work that I will be reviewing at some point. One of those is arriving today, not sure which. But otherwise, I'm pretty much out. Do I want to review supplements? No, because when I have, they haven't tended to do as well. Right, Jim Raji has been kind enough to send me adventures and things, and I have reviewed them as honestly as I've been able to. But compared to core books, new game systems, new game worlds, there's just not the interest there. And I can basically, at least for a while, no longer afford to be just curious and pick things up, because I'm just curious. Supplements don't sell as well, and it seems like there's not as much interest in them. Some of the retrospectives on RPGs have included some supplementary material, but it doesn't exactly set the internet on fire. So I know that'll disappoint some of you who do want me to review supplements, but the juice ain't worth the squeeze. I do have a PDF slush pile, because there was a time there where I was receiving too much material to review, primarily in the form of PDFs, people sending them to me on the off chance, and it's just ended up saved by default to downloads, and I've barely even looked at it. So there's a bunch of stuff there, but it's old, And there's also the problem that when reviewing the PDFs, I pretty much have to be on screen and I am flipping through. Right, so part of the reason I did the top-down view is I don't necessarily want to appear on screen every day if I'm having a bad hair day or just not feeling very visual. There's that aspect to it, and also PDFs are much clearer on the screen, and I am conscious of the paranoid belief that some publishers have that people are just going to look at what's up on the screen and somehow use that as a reference to crib the book for free or whatever. That's why I do the top-down view. That's why I add little widgets and things flying around and obscuring the pages a bit sometimes, which I'm sure is frustrating for some of you, but still. So I could delve into the PDF slush pile, but I don't know. What do you think? A lot of these games are extremely minor, extremely obscure, of interest to a handful of people, perhaps, but it might be good for the people who are publishing these small independent games. It's just I'm not sure whether it's good for the channel. Growth and coverage and views and all of that stuff, which isn't really why I'm in this game, but it needs to at least pay for itself to an extent, right? The other thing I could do is I could talk more about the games that I run or that I have run. That is something I could do. I could go more in depth on some of my projects and books. I could talk at length about Whitechester, which has never gotten the attention I wished it would have, or the projects that I'm working on at the moment. That 3-parter on Dolmenwood did quite well, but I see other channels where they've got a video for every section of the book that they're reviewing, and they spend hours on it, on each section, and that just seems interminable and boring to me. It's not something I ever stop and listen to. I prefer the sort of punchier, shorter reviews, get into the guts of it, and I know I wonk on for 20 or 30 minutes sometimes, and I think that's way too much, but these people go on for hours, and some people watch them, but I don't know. I looked at a couple of books recently, the Chris Foss art book and the Cyberpunk 2077 background book. I just looked at them and wonked on about them for a while, but one thing I've thought about doing is doing like a gamer's eye on things, where I could look at art books but talk about it from a tabletop gamer's perspective, or novels I've read and talk about them from a gamer's perspective, films, computer games, right? Borderlands 4 is out now. How could you translate that to a tabletop game? I think there was one, or a battle game, or something, or Bunkers and Badasses. I think there was talk about turning that into a game at some point, but it didn't exactly set the world on fire. But how could you translate that into a tabletop game? There used to be articles in, not Arcane, one of the other British RPG magazines, where they talked about playing the film, right? They would talk about Predator and Aliens and whatever, and it's not necessarily in the official tie-in games, but just how you create that atmosphere, or what rule systems can be used to replicate that sort of thing. So, that's a thought. But everything seems to have a tie-in RPG these days, so it might be redundant. I don't know. At some point, we'll be bringing in runs of what's going to be called Machinations Monday, where me and the people from motsp.com, who are shepherding Machinations of the Space Princess into a larger, better, stronger project. So we'll be talking there about Machinations related stuff. So that's another day out the week, which leaves me 2 days to fill, I suppose, for a while. I could bring back Roll for Insight on a more common basis. If people drop questions into the channel, and it's not something I would cover on the comments day on the Saturdays, which is another easy day for me, I could combine those or address them But I like having those as when I need a break. I can churn out, dozens of very short videos where I'm just answering questions, and that works out quite well for me. So yeah, that's where I'm at. What do you want? This is a question I'm consistently asking and not getting answers to. What do you want me to do? What would you like to see on this channel? Would you like to see GM advice? There's a lot of GM advice on YouTube from a lot of smug and unbearable people that often has very little to do with the real world. Would you like me to do sort of street GM advice? Dealing with actual problems at the table and tips and tricks that I do actually use, or that I would advise other people to use. Would that be something? Do you have any ideas? What do you think I do well? What would you like me to talk about? I've asked people who sub to my Patreon, who are clearly invested in my success, what they want me to do, what I can do to offer additional value to Patreon, but nobody ever really answers. You expect me to put a video out every weekday, and yet you can't tell me what you want. I mean, I'm gonna do what I want anyway, so but it would be nice to have some sort of feedback and some sort of idea what people would like to see. Alright, have a good one. Zang.
Ars Goetia presents classical demonology for OSR games. If you like your magic to have a little authenticity, if not reality, then Ars Goetia will give you all the tools necessary to bring classical ritual magicians and demonologists into your OSR games.
It's